We're pleased to have you be a part of our learning this afternoon as we talk about how do we move through as educators to determine what's the right AI tool for us to be using in our classroom space. So I invite you to be a part of our AI learning by taking the link that's been posted in the chat and completing that AI fluency survey. And then if you want to follow along with our webinar, you can see the link is posted there as well. We'll drop that into the chat for you to be able to navigate the slides and follow along on your own device if sharing the screen isn't a good fit for you. I also want to give a big thanks to our webinar team who's been really dedicated to creating some learning for you this afternoon that can be really meaningful and practical. And so we have those folks here with us today: Kim Farnsworth, Brittany Miller, Jacqueline Stevens, Russell Strand-Poole, and Amy Walter, who are joining myself, Emma Broughton, and the Director of Digital Learning here at the Friday Institute. And it is my pleasure to be able to introduce for you today our Director, Executive Director, Dr. Krista Glazewski, who will be sharing a few words with us this afternoon to help us get started. Krista?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you. It's our honor to welcome you to this event, and as the second event of our webinar series. Second one, right, Emma?
Yep.
And there will be two more coming up in January, starting in January again. We are really excited about this series. We have launched kind of an AI with the FI theme this year. It started with an AI and K-12 convening that we hosted a couple weeks ago. If there's time for a participant communication or interaction, one of the guest speakers from that event is actually here as a participant today. And that's Hayes Solbay, who's now at University of Albany. So we want to welcome her as well. We are really also excited to then continue as a follow-on to that, the AI with the FI series and webinar series here. Our approach is really just to be able to answer and address critical issues, create space for open conversation where we think this is going, and also to hear from you around how AI is playing out in your own educational settings, what concerns you have, what questions you have, and how we can be both a support, a resource, and a potential partner in your work. So we welcome you to the Friday Institute today. If you are not in Raleigh and you have a chance, but you ever have a chance to come visit us, we will welcome you to our physical building. We exist as an institute that has been in practice for more than 20 years. We work at the intersection of research, practice, and policy, and our goal is to see translational research and research to practice efforts happen and make difference in education systems today. We work primarily at the K-12 level, but we also have a range of projects in higher education, informal settings, formal settings, in classrooms, in the field, in the country. And so we really just want to welcome you as to part of this, but also invite you to check out our other programming and our website and resources as well. So I'll stop there and hand it back to you, Emma.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that greeting, Dr. Glazewski. You have been influential in helping us really support AI in the state and beyond, and so appreciate your leadership in that way. One of the things that was important for us as we were thinking about what this webinar series could look like is what would be our goal overall and overarching. And it's really to think about how do we then empower educators, offer some hands-on guidance to foster that AI fluency, and then to really think about how can that have an impact on transforming teaching and learning. And so when we thought about structuring the webinar series, we thought, how can we get from being aware and interested in AI and moving all the way to adoption and advocacy? And so you see that if you are joining us for the second time, that you are part of our evaluation of AI for your own use, but these are also standalone sessions. So we hope that you'll find the information that we share with you useful today on its own. If you choose to join us next week, we'll be looking, or next month in January, we'll be looking at how do you then try this with your own students and what that can look like, and then wrapping up the series of this AI moving from awareness to adoption. by asking you all to be a part of that session 4, where you can showcase what you are doing. And so that's really built around our thoughts for the adoption process, thinking about where we can go as digital leaders in the field and in our classrooms. It was important for us to think about also, how do we define that notion of AI fluency, really where you can understand, where you can apply, and you can adapt those AI technologies effectively into your own context, into your own space. So if you've had a chance to complete that fluency survey that we posted earlier this afternoon, or previously in our session 1, we found it really interesting what your responses were. So what was your level of awareness? We really found it to be fairly high, that you were already learning and playing and thinking about AI in your own practice. The concept of AI fluency is maybe new to some of you, but others are still on that path of learning for what that can be. And then really about where we have some resources in education. And so where we'll take you today is really to help move that needle along so that you can strongly agree about the relevance, the concept, and the resources available for AI in education. We also wanted to capture a little bit of the systematic approach to how we evaluate AI. As part of our data report here, I hope that you'll see it's reflected in the content that we share with you, that we're really trying to move forward in how we can think about AI in our content standards, our pedagogy or teaching strategies, the benefits or concerns that you might have with AI, and then its effectiveness as well, because we really want to be responsive to what we see from these types of questions in our survey, where a lot of people aren't quite thinking about that yet, or they may be growing in that direction. So you can see in that second column there how that's explained. And then finally, are you currently incorporating AI elements into your practice, adapting materials, and communicating your beliefs or concerns with your with families or with others? And we loved seeing that this was definitely growing in that direction, and hope to be able to capture some more of that as we move into this session and our following sessions as well. So I want to turn it over to Brittany to share a little bit more about what our session will be about today, and to help us get started to navigate that maze.
Thank you, Emma. We are going to continue to kind of grow in our AI by taking a look at how we're going to evaluate AI for effective teaching, both looking at how it can help us improve instruction and also our time efficiency in our classroom tasks, as well as lesson development. So we're going to be taking a look at how we navigate that maze, figuring out how AI benefits us and how we can use it more thoughtfully. So today's objectives are to explore responsible AI use as an educator. We're going to be discussing some concepts such as bias and things that we need to be considering when we're using AI. We will also find efficiency and purpose for using AI in our practice, because we just don't want to use it just because it's the new great thing that's happening right now, but we want to be thoughtful and intentional when we're using our AI. So we're going to be talking about that as well. And then, of course, we're going to continue our journey with AI fluency as we continue to practice using AI tools. And we're going to expose you to some new AI tools and challenge you to use those as well as we go through. And we also wanted to kind of set the stage. This AI Bill of Rights was published by the White House in late 2022, and I identified 5 key principles for how the AI industry and users should be designing and engaging with AI. This document addresses issues relevant to identifying and evaluating AI output for ethical issues. But this is a quick snapshot. This is not, of course, the full document, nor are we going to dig into the entire document, but we want to make sure that we are being considerate and thinking about it in the educational context. And as we go through this maze, we're going to be focusing primarily on the algorithmic discrimination protections and data privacy, those 2 things that we want to keep in mind as we use AI for educational purposes. I'm going to turn it over to Emma and Russell, who are going to talk us through the maze and help us navigate our use of AI.
Thanks so much, Brittany. So the MAZE acronym is a really great tool for evaluating AI usage in the classroom. First, we want to make sure that our students' data is protected. As we begin to use these tools, we need to make sure that we're following FERPA laws. Next, we need to verify and assess any product produced by the AI tools and make sure that they're accurate and grade level appropriate. We also want to be conscious of any bias in the results from the AI. This could require teachers or educators to filter some results prior to sharing with students. And finally, we need to evaluate how usable the tool is. Did it ease our workload or create more work for us? Were the results usable, and is this a tool that we want to use again? So next, what we're going to do is dig into these 4 points using Parlay as an active example.
All right, so we have our acronym MAZE, and when we think about then that first part of navigating that maze of AI, we want to think about how do we consider the monitoring of data privacy, meaning how do we protect our students and their information? How do we protect ourselves and our data that might be input into the AI platform that we're using? And so making sure that we are safe and secure along the way, and making sure that data isn't being mined or compromised, and we're following all of the legal and local requirements for protecting our students in that space. And so like Russell mentioned, we're going to use Parlay to model that navigation of that AI tool for us. So a little bit about Parlay. Russell, why don't you go ahead and explain that for us and what that tool does, and then how we can apply our first letter of the acronym to that platform.
Great. So Parlay is a fantastic tool that will help us build discussion questions based on a topic and a grade level that we give to the AI engine. So Parlay operates with student data privacy in mind. They actually have a fantastic privacy policy that is extremely readable and accessible. They are really trying to be transparent with their data privacy. Many of the tools that you probably are aware of or that you've seen online are designed with adults and older students in mind. However, Parlay is designed as a tool to be used with students from grades 3 through 12, so it can reach far more of our students than many of the other tools out there. They also have a seal of approval from Common Sense Media validating that privacy policy. So outside organizations have come in and assessed it and made sure that it is a great tool, making sure that they're protecting the privacy of our students.
Awesome. So there are two strategies there to think about. How do we go about monitoring for data privacy when it comes to using AI in our classroom? So then when we navigate to the A, we're thinking about that assessment for accuracy. So is the AI tool giving us an output that is accurate? And what does that look like? And how do we keep humans in the loop, or really teachers in the loop? So Russell, if you could explain for us a little bit about how Parlay might do that.
Great. So here we've chosen to have Parlay generate discussion topics around cell structures for a 7th grade science class. None of the example discussion questions actually have factual inaccuracies if you go ahead and read those. However, the questions might be difficult for some of our students to answer. For instance, it might be difficult for students to speak to how understanding these cellular structures help improve the lives of humans in the future, if we haven't gone over that topic already in class. It's important to remember the teacher needs to be in the loop here and modifying the questions so they fit into their class. Do you need scaffolding questions to assist students with these? Perhaps as a teacher, you will need to raise or lower the grade level to fit your class. Luckily, Parlay allows us to do that.
Yeah, and one of the things too I'll add here, I think it's really awesome about Parlay, is that you can ask it to create discussion questions around a video. And so that could be a pretty powerful and efficient tool for you. But if you haven't watched the video yourself to assess if those questions are accurate, that could be an area where it's important for you to stay in the loop, watch that video, check those questions, and make sure that accuracy is happening there with that AI platform. Awesome. So let's think about zeroing in on bias then. Bias oftentimes is going to cause issues and be a caution for how our students who are underrepresented or students of color might be affected by the data output from AI because they might be relying on data that is unreliable or not representative of their communities. And so it's important for us to make sure that anything that we are using really represents and isn't really represents our students and those communities fairly and accurately. And then we are addressing any of those concerns that might come up as we are paying attention to what that bias might look like, and even reporting that as well. So Russell, if you want to talk a little bit then about how Parlay, or Brittany, excuse me, how Parlay manages some of that content creation and student assessment piece.
Sure, yeah, I got this. So in our science class, if you were able to read those discussion questions from the previous slide, uh, these discussion questions don't really have bias. We're actually kind of fortunate in this situation. And oftentimes we hope that science questions won't have that bias. However, if I was to ask Parlay to come up with a discussion prompt around potentially a controversial topic, I would have to be very careful to make sure that the results did not include bias, and also did not bring up some bias that I would not want in my class. So as a teacher, you should always remember to review AI generated material to make sure that they don't have those biases. AI is generated by historical representation and measurement bias as it exists in the data that the AI is pulling from. So all that content does absolutely need to be reviewed first by the teacher to make sure that it's going to be appropriate for our class.
Yeah, I'll just add to here, we often think about the student assessment piece and making sure that if AI is engaged in assessing our students' work, that we're also taking a look at how AI is doing that. And if there are alternatives or measures that the teacher needs to take to keep the teacher in the loop here, to make sure that we aren't creating any bias in what that assessment looks like and that we can address it in case it does. And so making sure that we keep our eye on that as well, I think is an important component of thinking about using AI in our classroom as well. So our final part of the acronym here is evaluating the value of that AI tool. Russell?
Yeah, so finally, we want to evaluate if the tool reduced our workload and or enhanced our instruction. So for instance, if I'm a veteran teacher, I probably already have several discussion questions that I can just pull out of my back pocket when I want to refer to them. But a new teacher probably doesn't have those discussion question banks to rely on, and this could be extremely helpful to those teachers. These results might also be better than what I've used in the past, and they could enhance my teaching, or they might not. So at this point, I need to determine if I'm going to use these questions and if the sample was enough to make me want to use this tool again in the future. So now what we're going to do, now that we've looked at an example, we want to give you an opportunity to explore a tool yourself. What we would like for you to do is come up with a topic that you're going to be covering in class. It doesn't have to be a massive topic, just something small. And once you have your topic, choose one of these 5 tools listed above here to build your resource for your class. Now, this is important. We don't have too much time in this webinar, so we're not going to go very in depth. We're not going to go in and modify the product from or that the AI tool creates. We just want you to get that initial view, that initial glance at what the AI tool is going to produce that might help you in your class. So once you have your resource, run an analysis on the product. What is your impression of data privacy? Were the results accurate? Is it biased? Finally, does it have value for you as a teacher? If you're worried about time, feel free to analyze just one of those parts of the MAZE acronym. You don't need to go through all 4 of them. The goal here, once again, is not to modify the product to make a classroom resource right now. This is simply meant to be a very quick analysis of your first impressions with that tool. If If you want to go ahead, click one of those links and just experiment for a little bit while we have time and see what is produced and see if it's something that you would like to use in your class.
Yep, so I'm going to navigate back to that navigating the maze acronym so that you'll be able to, as you look at one or several of those tools, that you'll be able to think about, okay, does this tool monitor for data privacy? How do I ensure that? How do I assess for accuracy, zero in on bias, and then evaluate the value of that tool? So hopefully these 4 approaches and strategies will help you as you consider that AI tool that might be of use for you in your classroom space.
All right, everyone. Hope you've had a little bit of fun digging in and trying an AI tool and taking a look at it with that maze lens. As has been stated before, you have that FI back channel available to you. You can answer some of those questions. Maybe that's something that you can use in the future too, if you don't have time now. But as you explore after this or another day, you're welcome to come back and revisit that back channel and kind of ask yourself those questions and see what you explore and what you learn as we go through. And so next slide, thank you. So our main thing that we're asking is, how does that align? Does the tool help you in your instruction? Does it help you in assessing that tool and the quality of the tool and how it helps you? The next thing we're going to talk about is to do a brief overview. I'm going to turn it back over to Emma, who wants to talk about ChatGPT and doing this with a tool that we've all heard about and recognize most commonly with that AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brittany. So one of the things that I think that we hear the most about when we're talking about Gen AI is something like ChatGPT. Some people might be using another platform like Bard or some others. And so we were really in discussion about where are we right now with monitoring privacy and accuracy, bias, and value with something like ChatGPT. So you can see some of those thoughts that we had on the screen there on the right-hand side. But I really wanted to make a comment about how we realize that things are ever changing with AI in education right now. We're looking at a product like ChatGPT that has changed in the last year since it I think has just hit its 1-year anniversary. And so some of the ways that it is assessing for accuracy and including references to websites as part of its output is different than what it was. And so making sure that as you are thinking about these different parts of our navigation of the maze, know that it's an ever-changing target that we need to continue to revisit, go back to, think about again. And if there are improvements, excellent. And if there are changes that are in the negative or that we learn about or become concerned about, and then make some changes again there on our end about how we might use or include them in our own efficiency or in our own instruction. So just some food for thought there about ChatGPT and how we could think about moving through the different parts of our maze as we want to make sure that we're being responsible users of AI in our space.
Yes, and we can continue to apply that maze to every AI tool that we come across and kind of practice with and learn how we can use it most effectively. We also wanted to share, as we come to our close, that we have this amazing Wakelet resource where we have curated quality resources related to AI use in schools, quality prompt, construction, ethical considerations, all these pieces. So we want to make sure that we highlight that. If you want to dig into this another time, you're welcome to keep note of this repository and go back and explore it, because we have put some work into and thoughtful time into correcting all of that for you. The next piece that we want to talk about is the last time that we met, if you were here with us before, set a professional goal for our next steps related to AI last time that we were together. And next time, if you are here with us new, we invite you to set a goal. But if you are joining us again, we encourage you to reflect on that goal and see how you've grown with your own AI fluency. Are you becoming more comfortable with AI, and also keeping in mind all the things that need to be thought about the efficiency of AI? We also encourage you to post your commitment in the social media platform of your choice using the hashtag AI with the FI, which also has a number of other resources available to it if you just want to check out that hashtag. available on Twitter or the social media of your choice.
Awesome. So we will be looking for your post on social media, hashtag AI with the FI. What does that look like to you for your own personal professional goals about how you might be evaluating and navigating the maze of AI and what that can be? We also wanted to give you an opportunity to be a part of our own AI research as well. And so what you'll see here on the screen, and we'll drop that link into the chat as well, is exploring what are the teachers' perceptions around AI, their attitudes, their beliefs, what that looks like. And so this is a brief survey. It takes about 10 minutes in total to provide your perspective on that. That's an important data gathering tool for us to be able to better understand what's happening in the classroom, in your space. And so if you would be willing to participate, we would love you to volunteer to be a member of our AI research community here. And so would love for you to open that as a tab. If you're able to complete that now, that would be fabulous. And if not, leave that tab open until you can come back to it again later in order to share with us your perspective, your perceptions, attitudes, and beliefs around what that looks like as well.
Our next webinar, we are excited to engage with you again in January. So we're taking a bit of a pause through December, but rejoining at the beginning of January as we discuss hands-on classroom leveraging AI for student-centered learning. And in that webinar, in case you were thinking about, well, are they going to talk about ethical use with students? That is where we're going to dig into that component of bias and ethical considerations, because we didn't have time to cover all of it today. We will be digging and touching on that the next time that we meet. So we're looking forward to rejoining you. If you want to meet with us again on January 18th, we'll be doing live at 4 p.m. or we have the hybrid available on January 22nd at 8 p.m. So take note of those. You are also welcome to look back and watch the recording of the previous webinar if you missed it. And this webinar now will also be going on that YouTube channel, and that link is available in the chat as well.
Awesome.
Last but not least, we need to know your feedback. Please let us know what you thought about this webinar and what you want to know more about. So if you go to that live link, we want to hear what you have to say. And all of your feedback is welcome and honored.
Absolutely. I'll also include in this this feedback piece, there's an opportunity for you to volunteer to be showcased. So like I mentioned earlier in our 4th session, we would love to be able to talk about what you all are doing in your classrooms or in your practices. And so what that would mean is volunteering through this feedback survey, and we will reach out to you to connect to see what you would be able to share in our session 4 at the beginning of the new year. So please take a couple of minutes. It's a short survey there. We'll, again, like I said, follow up with you to be able to connect on what that might mean. So more to come for sure. We're excited to have you be a part of our AI community here in North Carolina. Really sincerely appreciate you sticking with us this afternoon. We're going to stick around on this call for a couple more minutes. If you have any questions or would like to just have a chance to connect with us, feel free to do that. But know that this webinar was supposed to wrap up about 4:45, so appreciate your flexibility in sticking with us. We'll talk to you soon. We'll be checking the chat and the Q&A in case you've got any follow-up questions. But otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, folks.